Welcome to the SharePoint Patterns and Practices short video. And this one, we're going to have a look on how to optimize the validation of your client-side web part configuration in SharePoint Framework solution. So essentially how to minimize unnecessary CPU and processing within your browser. And I'll let Waldek Mastercars to do the actual demo on this one.
Excellent. So imagine you have a web part you add to the page. Oftentimes you have to set it up first so that it knows what to load, where the data load from, right? So after you add the web part to the page, like here we did in Workbench, here we ask, for example, to enter credit card number, but it can be anything. It can be location, it can be zip code, it can be anything that your web part might need in order to work correctly. And pay attention here when I enter the value to the clock which you see here. Pay attention that how it's going to change as I'm typing a value, right? So here, imagine that I'm now trying to enter my real credit card number, reading it from my real card. So it takes a moment, right? And with that, you can see that every single time I type a value, the clock will update, right? And the way it works, and now that it works correctly, we have the value there, we can see actually the web part. So the way it works is this web part is built in Angular. So here we have the web part, and in render, we actually bootstrap the app. And every single time we change the value in web part properties, we propagate that all the way to Angular, which we do here. So we raise an event in web parts to which we listen inside the Angular app, and we respond to it here. Now imagine, so the way it works is that on every single time we change the value, the Angular app gets the value, runs it, checks it, and does it all the way there. So in other words, whether the value is correct or not, all of the Angular app runs, right? Which is, if you think about it, it's quite inefficient, right? Because if the app was really big, that the web part was big, and it had to do some other things along the way, it would be quite inefficient of it to do it every single time, even though the value that the web part requires to work correctly is not there yet. So instead, what we can do is we can move the check to actually the web part itself. Right, so let's do that. Let's get the code that we have in our Angular app, and let's move that to web part. And with that, we will be able to actually perform the check directly here in web part. And then we will make another method, private, and that will be called validate credit card number. And as a parameter, we take the value, which is the value that we enter, and we return a string, and that string is, if the value is incorrect, that's the error that we want to show in UI, and if the value is correct, we return an empty string. So here we say, latest documents web part is valid MasterCard number value. If it is, then we return an empty string. If it's not, we return invalid MasterCard number. And here we actually bind that check to our field. So here we say on get error message. And here we actually point that to the method that we've just added. This validate credit card number, and we bind it to this so that we have the right scope inside a method. So with that, let's save it. The Workbench should refresh. Let's remove the web part because that one already has the value in it. Let's re-add it to the page. And now you can actually see that the clock will not change. So as I enter the number, you will see that the error here will still show, but the clock will not update. And the reason for that is that until the web part gets value that it accepts, it will not refresh the web part. So it will only do that after the value that I entered is correct. And that makes the web part more efficient.